Thank you. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 13th Board of Directors Study Session, Westmead Sanitary District. If we get a roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Director Nicole Wiltshire. Here. Vice Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Here. Secretary Arthur Perry.
Here.
Vice President Bob Uten.
Here.
President Mike Schaefer.
Here, thank you very much. Public comments. This is the time set aside for anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the board on matters within our purview, but that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing no one, let's go to items of study and number one, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. David Griffin, our code enforcement officer, will be giving this report. Good morning, President Schaefer, members of the board. I'm here for my report for the month of April 2025. This report summarizes major points for 3 ordinance enforcement topics: covering scavenging, graffiti, and trash container enforcement. For the month of April, the CMSD code enforcement officer focuses efforts on patrols in various parts of the community. The goal is to identify and deter instances of scavenging and residential trash carts left within the public view. In the month of April, the district saw a number of complaints filed with CMSD code enforcement staff regarding scavenging activity in the city. As with most scavenging activity complaints, the alleged violations take place in the early morning hours. So I'm out patrolling by 6:30 in the morning. The month of April, I caught 8 scavengers listed by the maps. I wrote 1 citation to an individual on Ogle Street. I had multiple contacts with this individual. He came in and took care of the fine. Trash container enforcements. In the month of April, there were a few customer complaints reported to the district headquarters regarding trash carts in public view. The following a list of locations where trash cart violations were found and addressed by our courtesy notice process. Again, with the streets listed, I wrote 139 courtesy notices last month. Any questions on either of those?
What kind of violations that 139 graffiti mostly?
For
The 139 are public view or
those are just trash carts in public view, sir.
just public view?
And so I did leave a cart or a tag on a cart that was over there by your house. And then I was instructed that you had mentioned about this cart being abandoned.
Oh.
So
Which CR&R, I think.
it has been scooped up already, and I apologize for, the delay over there. I thought it was the neighbor on the corner at 1830 Iowa, but
It's ironic because one of the local dog walkers came up to me and she said something about me being on the board. How could we cite that person when there's other people? And so I diplomatically handled her, but I think I talked to Mike about that. You guys picked it up or? Yeah, I was gone the next day as far as I knew.
and so somebody was putting it in the street for service. And when I looked inside, there were nothing but, dog poop bags in there. So
That's what this dog walker said to me, that it was so convenient to have a trash can there where people could put their dog waste.
I get it. And they're not contaminating anyone's green cart with their bags. So, but anyways, yeah, my apologies. And it's been secured. So no cases of graffiti. And then the map at the last page shows you my contacts with all the scavengers.
I have a question. Normally, Santa Ana Ave is like the worst offender on this list, usually with like at least 20 like cart in view violations, but I'm not seeing anything here for, am I missing it? I'm not seeing anything for Santa Ana Ave.
Sometimes they're, good and sometimes
Yeah.
they're very bad. So
All right.
Well, when you say you write it up, do you have to physically write something on the site, the thing you leave for the residents?
yes, sir. That's their address.
Oh,
It has some, our ordinance on there, and a part that I tear off and keep for my copy, which would include that cart serial number as well.
Yeah, that seemed like a lot of time. 130, 140 documents.
It usually goes pretty fast, but you know, inevitably somebody will come out and, you know, have some questions or
And when they see
comments.
you, they come out, they just want to talk to you.
I wish it was that case.
That's right.
That'll conclude my report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Right. Item 2.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Marissa Pareto will start off this report.
Good morning, President and Board. City Green Consulting conducted the first waste composition studies of the new recycling and landfill carts. 8 studies in total were conducted in March and April, covering 4 different route areas in our jurisdiction. Overall, contamination in the recycling cart averaged a little over 44%, and contamination in the landfill cart averaged a little over 30%. Mike Ballier, President of City Green Consulting, is here to provide an oral report of the study's findings.
Members of the board, as Marissa said, we are looking at the recycling and the trash containers on 4 different routes. So the 8 sorts basically were of 4 different routes. What jumped out at me, the first one, we'll call that Far West. That's the area over by Estancia High School. The real issue there was a lot of food waste in the trash can, almost 12%. So definitely room for improvement there. Also 12% recyclables, so about 75% of the correct materials in the trash. I do call wet paper a correct material going in the trash, although you know, it's impossible to know if it was contaminated before they put it in there. But really, depending on the tolerance for the organics program, some of that material could go in the organics cart, and hopefully we can keep the paper dry. The next area, West Side, Harbor, Placentia, 19th. The dry paper and the recycling was low at 22%, and the organics and the recycling container was high at about 13%. My impression there is that it appears to be a lot of people are using the recycling carts as an extra trash cart. So the notation I made there is it might be interesting to look at what was the trash container account before the change out and what is it now? And, you know, is that an impact? The third one was on the east side, and that was kind of a tale of 2 cities, best of times, worst of times. They had the best recycling container survey, although it wasn't good. But, you know, the issue there is 31% dry paper in the recycling container, 31% dry recycling paper in the trash container. So again, room for improvement there, and also another notation there to check the trash cart count. Because some of the materials are separating well, but then there's a lot of trash. And then lastly, west side, south of 19th, 39% almost trash in the recycling cart. The actual recyclables in the trash was very low at 9%. So they were doing a good job in some respects, but again, we found a lot of trash containers going in there. So again, they were the worst as far as organics contamination. Nearly 18% of the trash container weight that we sampled was food waste, so or food waste and green waste. So I think actually 18% just food waste. The green waste was a little bit high, but we did have a large branch in there that might skew it a bit. But again, the food waste in there was a problem. So again, I'm thinking messaging on the trash container is getting across. If it goes in there, it's gone and lost forever. The economic value of that material, the jobs it might create if you put it in the trash, it's going directly to the landfill. You know, I think perfectly good mixed waste processing program, but the regulations are making those nearly impossible to have. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
looking at this last week, the paper thing, clean papers. I think we need more education to the public, what that is. And how they can interpret it, because even I have a problem interpreting that. So I think maybe that could be one of our things for education for the public. I mean, I don't know, I think that's what you said, but.
Yeah,
that's
I think
important.
focusing on paper, and again, that might be a question for CRNR as far as how much paper you could handle into the organics cart. But if you could really say, hey, there should be no paper in the trash cart. If it's dry, put it in the recycle cart. If it's wet, put it in the organics cart. Might be an approach. Again, there's a point of diminishing returns. So again, they can speak to that on the organics cart. But paper was a big problem. But like I said, the big thing that jumped out at me is I think a lot of people probably turned in a trash cart, got a recycling cart, and they're still using it the same.
Maybe.
Well, Mike, what happens to the trash that goes in the blue cart? They go to CRNR. I mean, they separate out, do they separate out the landfill portion and take it to the landfill?
Yeah, it would be called residual waste then that they couldn't recycle. Now, if there's recyclables in that bag of trash, then chances are they're recovering that. But again, if it's mixed in with wet material, it might be contaminated. But at least the recycle cart will be sorted. But again, it just creates extra effort to try to get the material if there's too much trash in there. So it isn't ideal.
So if the majority of the contamination look like it's trash, landfill material, and if CRNR takes that out, or is CRNR, can you effectively remove most of that, and does that go to the landfill? And would that be counted against us?
Yeah, that's the problem with no mixed waste processing. Everything that goes in the trash cart goes directly to the landfill. So you have no recycling out of that. And then if you have a lot of trash and contamination in the recycling cart, that also goes to the landfill. So the amount that's recycled is frankly less because there's less material that's able to be sorted.
I mean, so my real question is, does that count? So having that huge amount of landfill material in the blue cart, that is going to affect our diversion rate.
Very much so. Again, you had a system before where technology and effort backstopped the lack of separation, and now that's not really permissible or very difficult to have happen. So you're now with the 3-cart program that really puts a premium on separating. And again, perfect world, it should yield some more recyclables because there'll be no cross-contamination, but we don't live in a perfect world.
My neighbor said exactly what you said. You took away my landfill cart, so I'm going to so he just puts his landfill material in the blue cart. He still has he still has X number, he still has the same number of carts. They have different color lids, but it doesn't make any difference to him because we took away the landfill cart.
Well, and that's the challenge to overcome. We're doing these sorts to give a little bit of time to get the program out there to see how it's initially doing. But again, still some effort needed on organics recycling. And then, not using the recycle as an extra cart. And I think focusing on if it goes in the black cart, it's gone and lost forever.
So I think part of the education is we will, CRNR sanitary district will replace the size of those landfill carts. So if he had a 65-gallon cart and he was able to get a 95-gallon cart, if he wants, then he would have more room, to do it like we would like him to do it.
A very fine line. Again, if you just give a bunch of extra trash carts, then you probably won't have as much material going in the recycling carts. But if you don't have enough trash carts, then you get trash in the recycling carts.
I'm saying the education material might be that they could get a bigger landfill cart unless they already have a 95 gallon, which most of them, many of them did have, so.
So David, you probably want to get the address of the neighbor that.
He lives blocks away from me.
Mike, two quick things. If people throw into the landfill cart other recyclables like cans and pieces of metal and things that should obviously be in the recycle, that's gone to the landfill? That's too bad. I mean, and the second question I have is, it's too bad that the state does not, it's what you said earlier. I'm a little confused. When you say wet paper, it's any contaminated paper, right?
Yeah, and wet's not maybe wholly accurate, but a lot of the material is wet. That's why it can't be recycled, but some is coated paper that wouldn't be recycled. So again, it's really non-recyclable paper, but I would say rough estimate, nearly half of it would be napkins or cardboard that's
Pizza
wet.
box.
That
I mean,
could
we
go
always
in the
talk
organic.
about pizza
Yeah.
boxes. When I first, it's not just wet paper. Probably in my household, the biggest confusion, other than plastics, which we talked about, maybe educated, is which paper goes in which, right? So if you use a napkin to clean your hands or to wipe up something, it should go in the recyclable. No, I'm sorry, I'm saying the back, that goes in the landfill cart. Goes in the organics.
Potentially, it could go in the organics cart because a paper towel, things like that would break down again. And I would leave that to CRNR as far as the tolerance for paper. But at this juncture, I'm seeing that about half of that wet paper, which runs, 12% of what we're finding in the recycle cart. And in some instances, if that could go in the organics cart, that would be better than the trash.
Yeah, okay.
That's why, was my statement originally. We need a better education, what paper can go where. I think, next thing we put out, explain what they are and how they can do it right.
Yeah,
That would
paper
help.
is organic waste for the state and their regulations, and a good amount of it is suitable for the organic.
I'm almost of the opinion that the next newsletter or a future newsletter be nothing but recyclables and what's going in it. I mean, those numbers are kind of mind-boggling that it's dropped that much, and then eventually we're gonna get penalized down the road, so just a whole newsletter devoted to that. And hopefully people read that, so I mean, you guys are doing such a great job with the social media. It's popping up on, Facebook and
Everywhere.
Instagram, all that. The word's getting out there. It's just, we gotta find some way to get people to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and you're talking years and years of behavior that
Yeah.
you're trying to change.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I have one.
Yeah.
In the communities you deal with that had the 3-cart system historically, is it the same level of problem? Or have they been trained over the years?
It's not much better. Again, I think the challenge of SB 1383 is that no trash is being processed anymore. And a lot was. So I would say overall, the state's diversion rate has dipped. And so now it's the carrot and the stick. How do you, get that diversion rate back up? Education is part of it. Nobody wants to fines or contamination, but again, that's the only other avenue the state has given. I'm hoping they make some type of processing a little bit easier to do. I'm hoping they come up with some technology, but I wouldn't count on it. The way the regulations are written, composting or AD is basically it. Any other technology could only be approved one location at a time, so it's really a barrier to innovation.
We still looking at a diversion rate for Costa Mesa Sanitary? Do we have a diversion rate?
Well, again, we're lucky that the sorters, and CRNR does a great job of providing sorters that actually work on the line and have experience on the line. So with the sample that we get, they do a very good job. And of course, I'm there to do some fine tuning. But again, what I don't know is right now the plastics market is horrible. Textiles, there are materials that we're calling trash that theoretically could develop better markets, fingers crossed. There's also some technology you guys have on your MRF as far as fines and things like that. So the actual diversion rate may be a little bit higher. I'm just kind of categorizing, and I think I have a fairly good group of sorters to know what they would pull out. But again, there's other mechanical things that I can't really replicate as far as sorting.
And I think we need to be realistic too, and I know staff understands this. You mentioned a change of behavior. I think we all hope to assume that like that, everyone's gonna be putting everything in the right cans. It's not gonna, it's gonna be several years before we get to some kind of improve. It's the behavior. It's the guy that doesn't want to, no offense to your neighbor, but it's the guy that doesn't want to bother with putting it in the right can. Or
He doesn't have the.
I think you made an excellent point, Mike, when you said people are putting stuff in the other cans simply because they can't fit everything in their landfill can. Out of sight, out of mind. On Thursday morning, in my case, that thing gets dumped and they don't have to worry about it ever again.
They hear the truck on the street and it's like, well, I got no room here, it's
Exactly.
reality.
Or there was something on the news the other morning about this guy that caught some woman putting her trash. I mean, he had a camera and saw her come across the street and put her trash in his can. Just because she didn't want to put it in her can, I don't know what she had in that bag, but we can't expect this thing to be an overnight evolution. It's going to take some time.
And I think the state, as far as getting in trouble for dropping diversion rates, I don't think that is priority for them now. I think the priority is, do you have the programs in place? Are you educating once a year? Are you going to the new color coding that we want people to use? They're kind of playing the long game, thinking, eventually over time, people will get it.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
Always good reports, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you, Julie and Mike. I should probably mention that when we ask a question, we should indicate on the
Julie,
record.
she has a comment, did you, Julie? Pardon me?
Oh, please.
Morning. You took the words out of my mouth. So my comment was, don't panic yet. Remember, we did this characterization 3 months after the delivery of all the recycle carts citywide. Newport, we went through this in 2021. Similar thing. They didn't have recycling. We added it. 3 years later, we saw a 10% increase in the contamination in the recycling cart. 3 years. So the point is, kind of hit me to it. We've just recently been doing this with many of our cities where we're doing a postcard, which I'm going to propose to do for CMSD as well, that CRNR will pay for. It'll be mailed to every door, but it's a full color, and that's all that's on it. What goes where, shows the 3 carts with pictures of the material you can go in. But it goes back to what Mike said, what Bob has said, it's a change in behavior. The reality of it is everyone still thinks they need this huge trash cart. I can only name 6 items that are allowed to go in the trash. Everything else is supposed to go in the blue cart or the green cart. And I think the focus is I'm not worried. So kind of going back to the conversation that I wanted to speak about is about our MRF, the recycling sort line, we'll take all that trash out that contaminates the recycling. And it goes, as Mike said, but then it gets called residual, but it goes into the trash pile. So the recycling we have left is clean. For me, the bigger issue is, and really for everybody, is trying to get those clean recyclables, organics out of the trash cart. That's really the focus, is to educate people what they only should be putting in the trash cart. I'm not concerned about contamination in the blue. I'm concerned in all the recyclables or organic material that's in the black can. That's the focus.
What are the 6?
Dog poop, ceramics, broken glass, packaging, so the bubble wrap, chip bags, kind of the glossy stuff that Mike mentioned. That's kind of the bags, packaging that goes into the trash. I think that's 5. I know, I have a hard time even, diapers, baby diapers. It's hard, styrofoam. It's hard to think of hardly anything that should go in there because everything else is supposed to go into the other cans.
I was just, you didn't have to. Thank you for that.
No, but I have a hard time with it because that's the point. Everything else should be recycled or go into the organics.
I went to 2 small cans down to, I only put out 1 now.
Mhm.
I know our landfill goes out every 2 weeks. We don't. You did forget the most important thing that goes in the landfill.
What is that? Oh, palm fronds. Yes. Thank you. Palm fronds. That was all I wanted to share. Don't worry, we've got time. It'll get better.
Anything else? Thank you. Good.
No, I think they covered it. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I think we all like looking at this stuff because it puts the meat to what we're supposed to be doing, you know, and so thank you all for the good information. Number 3, Scott.
Turn this over to Melissa again.
Hello again. So on March 19th, staff attended the Southern California Waste Management Forum Annual Spring Conference, and the board requested a summary of the conference, so I'll go ahead and provide some of the highlights. The most noteworthy presentation for the district was a CalRecycle SB 1383 compliance evaluation update that was provided by the branch chief of the JACE division of CalRecycle. So all jurisdictions are subject to a compliance evaluation every 4 years. The current 4-year cycle started in 2023. So far, approximately 86 jurisdictions have had their compliance evaluations either completed or started, with the next round starting at the time in March in the next few months, so they should be starting any day if they haven't already. To start this process, CalRecycle will send a letter to the jurisdiction informing them that they will be asking for their implementation record in 2 weeks. They'll then schedule a call with the jurisdiction, submit a formal request for that implementation record, and then the jurisdiction has 10 days to provide the record. CalRecycle will review, they'll ask follow-up questions, they'll then conduct a site visit, and then provide the jurisdiction with a findings report. Jurisdictions will have 2 weeks to provide feedback and make any corrective actions that they can make within that 2-week window. If they're unable to resolve any issues that are identified, then an NOV may be issued, and then that would trigger a 90-day or 180-day timeframe to address those issues. As you can tell by the process, it does seem like CalRecycle is trying to give jurisdictions ample time to comply. There's, a pre-warning and then a 2-week window and then a 10-day window. So there does seem to be room to comply with anything that is identified. That was the most noteworthy presentation for the district. Some other presentations included the Deputy Director of OC Waste and Recycling gave an update on the county's first climate action plan. That will be out for public review and comment in August, and then it'll go to their board at the end of the year. CalRecycle will also be conducting waste composition studies this summer to determine where we are as a state with that 75% organic waste reduction target. Overall, the conference was very informative, and staff appreciates the opportunity to attend. And that concludes my report, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Marissa, the city will get, the city will have to go through this process.
Every jurisdiction in the state will, yes. The city will have their own review process. The district will have the same.
So the city is responsible for the diversion number.
So our data is reported to the city in their annual report, but we're responsible for our own implementation record. So we're responsible for having the programs in place and then having the record to provide to CalRecycle to provide, proof of everything that we are doing. So they will be reaching out to us and conducting a
Okay.
compliance review of us as well.
So they know who we are.
Yes.
What is our diversion rate that you would report to them right now?
Right now, it's around 61%.
Does that include OCC? I mean,
So we don't have any items from OCC that are applying to our diversion rate. It would just be what's collected from our programs.
and where doesn't OCC, they're going to be report back to us, aren't they, Scott?
OCC doesn't provide any diversion reports to the district.
We were in the past because we were funding some of the programs like the hazard waste programs like batteries and fluorescent lights. But since we don't fund those programs anymore, we're not requiring to submit any data for it. And even if they did, that data would go to the hazard waste, not diversion.
Didn't we get like 2% from them in the past?
I think we did in the past, but I don't know how, to be honest with you, I don't know how we justified that. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, Mike might be able to. Mike helped us with that, didn't you, Mike? I know, but didn't we get around 2% diversion? But we can't get that anymore?
Well, I don't understand. I don't know what, they just started reopen, so I don't know what.
It hasn't been very busy.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Pardon me? I know, but then we used to report the 2% to our 61% to make
Yeah,
it.
we're not doing that right now.
Huh?
We're not doing that, and I don't
That
believe
was
it's
my question.
appropriate.
We don't do that anymore?
Yeah, no.
Right.
You always try. That is true.
Bob's neighbor
Yeah.
to act right, we could be way up there.
We'll find out where he's at.
Oh, and as an aside, when I go across the street, if the CRNR truck's already come by, he has a ring thing, so I have to hide to put. I don't put it in the recycle bin.
I don't know how to answer that one.
Oh,
Just as another side, and I forgot to mention this. Remember during one of the sessions, it was one downtown, where the lady held up the Amazon bag and wanted to know the Amazon. Remember that, Mike? Yeah. I don't know if. I don't order a lot through Amazon, but someone in my household seems to use Amazon. If Amazon delivers it, it's in a brown paper type bag. But yet if Amazon sends it through the postal service, it's that old style white bag.
Plastic, yeah.
So for you that want to stick it to somebody, let's stick it to the postal service. How about that? Sorry.
I got one more question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
Okay, the report that Mike just gave us, do we have to let the state see that?
It would be part of our implementation record, but we don't specifically report those studies. Like, they have to know that we're conducting studies, and then they can review the results of them.
Do other cities do that, Mike?
Yeah, you're required under SB 1383 to do contamination monitoring, either through waste evaluation, route reviews, or both. And so you guys do both, and so that's where the records go.
Thank you. That is a good, I've attended several of those forums, and they do have some pretty pertinent information, so I'm glad you guys were able to go. All right, batteries.
Thank you, Mr. President. Angela Fantino will be giving this report.
Good morning, President and Board of Directors. I'm here to provide the final report on this year's alkaline battery recycling program, which ran from September 2024 through April 2025. This year, 21 schools participated, collecting a total of 12,759 pounds of used alkaline batteries. On May 7th, I presented the first place award to Sonora Elementary, who led the program with an impressive 2,966 pounds collected, earning a $1,500 prize. In total, we distributed 10,150 in rewards based on the volume of batteries, and the top 5 schools were Sonora, Davis Magnet, Estancia High School, Paularino, and Kaiser Elementary. All participating schools received awards according to a tiered reward structure, encouraging greater participation and performance. The program process included outreach to 33 schools in August. The participating schools received signage and recycling boxes, and our contractor, Mercury Disposal Systems, handled monthly collection and reporting of battery weights. 12 schools chose not to participate this year. And in terms of finances, the program was well within budget. This year's total cost was just under $26,000. Looking ahead, the program will continue to operate efficiently while maximizing outreach and environmental impact. This program not only promotes recycling, but also helps build environmental stewardship in our youth and strengthens our ties with our schools. This item is for receive and file, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Good question from Marissa. Can we use these totals for diversion with the state information? This
So
is
it
a-
doesn't, no, it doesn't apply towards diversion. It would be part of our HHW collection programs.
Could be a side note to them, what we're doing.
But
I'm serious.
You know, I'm a big fan of having those little containers out in the public to collect the batteries. And, you know, that's how I do it. And I gave mine all to Davis School, but didn't seem to help them. Well, maybe it did. They got them
They
second
got
place.
second, yeah.
give me
Um,
College Park next year, please.
Or T-Winkle or California.
College.
T-Winkle.
College Park is two of the cutest.
I'll
little girls.
entertain those requests. Anyway, you know, I collect those batteries because I have a nice place to put them. And I don't know, Scott, how many of those little containers we've given out. We give them out at the, you know, when people come here. And I don't know, where else we do. They're not cheap. But I, for one, appreciate having a place, you know, to keep those batteries. And I probably keep more of them because I have that little container. When did we start giving those out? Do you remember?
No, I don't, but I'll talk to staff about maybe ordering some more. And those are great giveaways at our special events when we have our booths. Those are perfect
Yeah.
for those type of events.
Well, maybe in the next question, you know, questions to the public. And I think one's coming up where we're going to do an evaluation of different things with calls to the public. I would like to see something that speaks to that potential. Survey, in the surveys, I guess I should be calling.
What kind of question would you ask on the survey pertaining to?
Would you recycle more batteries if you had a convenient place, you know, to collect them? Or something like that. I mean, they can figure that out.
But, Arnie,
Okay. I just want to make a comment. Over the years, I've watched this. I've gone to all the different times that the programs are presented at the schools or wherever it's at. And I think this is the best they've ever done. As far as finding, you know, I can't believe the numbers because we've never had that. We've had them, this school doesn't want to participate. That one doesn't want, and this time, there hasn't been that same effort. And I think people are more aware of what's going on. And even with the cans part, you know, that people are changing. I know I've seen people just turning around. I shouldn't say this, but they're supposed to get a trash can, but they didn't get out in time. So they take it over to their neighbors and then get it done. But anyway, I just think that it's, you know, we need to honor them and, you know, I hope we tell them that thank you for participating in that type of thing because, you know, that's encouraging to them.
I think really good points. I think if you look at that picture with Angela presenting the check, those are probably three of the biggest smiles I've seen in a long time. I think what's impressive to me is and I noticed this the other day, the past program data. 5 schools participated 10 years ago. And now you have 20,
Yeah.
21? I mean, somebody, I don't know if they're talking about it at school conferences or what, but people are saying, hey, you can get this free money just for collecting batteries,
Yeah.
you know? Had a thought too, though. It seems like a lot of small electronic, I mean, flashlights. We have a pepper thing that you push the button and the pepper comes out the bottom. Doesn't have batteries in it. You have to recharge it. And more of these things are going to chargeable instead of batteries. So I'll be curious to see again over the next few years how that plays out. But whatever's happening to have 21 schools and to collect 13,000 pounds of batteries,
Yeah.
holy smokes. At least it keeps them from throwing them at the ball games and stuff like that. Anyway, good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very impressive.
Really is. All right, if there's nothing else, item 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as the board knows, President Schaefer is a board member to the Special District Risk Management Authority. His term on that board is expiring, so SDRMA will be performing another election process for that seat. I think there's a total of 4 seats that are up for re-election, so they'll be doing election 4 seats. President Schaefer has expressed a desire to run again, and in order to do that, the board of directors need to adopt the attached resolution. This is an action item. The reason why we have it on today's agenda is because the deadline to submit the nomination is this Friday, so we don't have much choice but to put it on today's agenda. So need board's action today to nominate President Schaefer to run again for the Special District Risk Management Authority, and then we'll send it off to SDRMA.
I'll move for approval to adopt a resolution 2025-1000 nominating Mike Schaefer as our candidate.
Well, I'll second it, but is this the time for discussion?
That's up to me.
Uh,
Time for discussion.
You know, SDRMA, I appreciate them and I appreciate President Schaefer's service. But somehow, most of the directors and apparently insurance concerns all over the place. You know, we just got a $60,000 a year increase in premiums, which I don't think we were aware of. But I can't think of a better person to be up there lobbying for us.
Do everything I can, and I think we were made aware pretty early in the process.
Well, it wasn't in the budget. So somebody missed it.
One of the deficiencies we have at SDRMA is we rely on rates coming from reinsurers and excess lines. And it seems like they always give us the rates after the deadlines. I mean, we have to adjust.
I got it.
And it's really a pet peeve that something, you know, if brokers can't do it, let's find a different broker. People did that to me when I was selling insurance.
I think I seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for your confidence. All right, item 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. Caitlin Tran will be giving us a report.
Caitlin?
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the board. This is the second review of the proposed preliminary biennial budget for fiscal year 2025-26 and 2026-27. The first review was on April 15. Since that initial review, only minor updates have been made. As Director Uten mentioned, the district received an updated liability insurance coverage quote for fiscal year 2025-26 from SDRMA. It is approximately $63,000 more than the proposed budget in April. The increase also affect the second year budget. To maintain balanced budgets, staff have made corresponding adjustment to expenditures with both the solid waste and wastewater fund in each budget year. Budget reductions were applied to expenditures accounts such as the annual sewer maintenance, contingency, and a reductions in the transfer from the wastewater fund to the asset management fund. Another update since the last meeting was the service loyalty program. In response to the Board of Directors' recommendation, staff updated the program, renaming it to longevity pay and limiting eligibility to employees who have completed all assigned goals and received an above expectations rating on their annual performance evaluation. The revised policy reflects these changes, is attached to the staff report. The Administrative Services Manager is available for any questions you may have. The proposed preliminary budgets for fiscal year 2025-26 and 2026-27 reflect balanced budgets. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Caitlin, on page 2 of the materials you provided, the fund balance projections for wastewater, it shows a pretty severe deficit starting in 27, 28. And I know we're going to do a study, another rate study. What I would like to see is, what is that doing to our reserves? We had 17% rate increases, which reflects the present annual charge. So we must have substantial money in the reserves to offset some of those future projected deficits.
The wastewater fund is projected a deficit in fiscal year 2027-28. As you can see there, it's approximately 1.8 million.
And then
But-
it just keeps going.
Yeah, and that's aligned with the previous rate study.
Yeah.
So there's we budget for a rate study in the second year budget, 26-27, and with that rate study, we'll include the Eldon force main and everything else.
Yep.
And by that time, we'll know more about the grant, if we receive it or not.
Well, you having these deficits doesn't necessarily make any difference if those 17% rate increases that have already been enacted put a substantial amount of money in the reserves. So what I'd like to see in the future presentation is what impact the reserve should take care of some of that.
Well, the reserved, we've been having some emergencies too, so that didn't help with the reserved.
Pardon?
We've been having some emergencies.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
so that didn't really help with the reserved.
Yeah, but in that rate study, the 17% increase in those 2 years included money for $12 million worth of CIP projects. So that money must be stored somewhere.
The 2 years of 17% increase each year, that's to carry out the 5 years. And so that's why by 27, 28, we'll be in deficit again if we don't do a rate
Yeah,
study.
well, my question is, I'd like to see what the reserves are in comparison to, to these costs, but.
Got it.
Are you talking reserve budget? Or
Pardon?
are you talking about the total amount of reserves that we'll have at that time?
Yeah, so some of that, maybe all of that, I mean, those are huge projected deficits, up to $7 million.
Yeah.
And we need a new rate study, to cover not only that, but that does not include the Eldon force main. So, I mean, we're going to need substantial increases, I would it would appear.
I think the time is good because we would need some direction from the board as far as a policy position goes. What is your comfort level for a minimum amount in the reserves? In the past, it's always been $5 million. Well, talking to our district engineer, that might not be enough, right? And so now's a good time in the next couple of years, we'll have that discussion with the board. What's your comfort? Is it $10 million? Is it $15 million? What is your comfort level? Once we have that information, then it can help us work with a consultant and get an idea what those rates would look like.
Well, the asset management study determined that $5 million, or recommended that $5 million, and that became the board.
Yes.
I don't know if it became the board policy, but
And that asset management study is over 10 years old. And so it's time to do probably another one.
well, I mean, we have not only, well, we have the Eldon Force Main, we have the emergencies that Mark has been dealing with, a couple $1 million, that we fixed at South Coast Plaza's pump station, or our pump station that they gave us. And there's just a lot hanging out there. I'm not opposed. All I need to do is see some additional information on those impacts. And I think that the study will do it. Are we doing the wastewater study first, or are we doing the solid waste study first?
We're doing a solid waste rate study first because the county landfill increases are going to go up next fiscal year. So we have to do the solid waste rate study first because the gate fees or the TIF fees are projected to go up in July of 2026. We don't know what that is yet because we're still in negotiations with the county, but we know it's going to go up.
Can you do those rate studies at the same time, or do we have to do one at a time?
It's a little more work if we do it simultaneously. It's going to cost us more, but I think it ties in nicely because we have the current wastewater rate studies for 5 years, and so when we do the next wastewater study in 2026, it will be the first year after that 5-year study. So the timing's good. Yeah. And plus, like Caitlin said, we'll know more about where we stand on the funding for Eldon. So that's really what we're waiting for to see. What we're gonna be.
The hope for is we'll get a federal grant.
Keep our fingers crossed, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I use the word hope in all capital letters.
Yes, agreed. We too. Us too.
When is the end of our current rate study that we put projected? Is that 26, 27?
For wastewater?
Yes.
It's
The fifth year of the current plan is 26, 27.
Yeah, so it's
26, 27?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
so that works out good.
Well, the time is good.
Got the 217%. Now we have 3 years left,
1 year left.
1 year left,
1 year left.
just 1 year.
Well, that's good.
So the timing is right. So
Yes.
we need to make sure we're concentrated on that.
Right.
And
And-
I just want to point out that the, what you're referring to, Director Uten, the reserved, if you look straight down on attachment C, page 2, 2027-28 column, where the deficit is 1.8 million, the last line there, 51.8 million, the total fund balance and retained earning. So that's pretty much the total reserved altogether. So if we don't have a rate increase, a rate study, then it's going to start to dip into the reserve. And as you can see, it continued to decrease.
Okay. Well, you've got a lot of opportunity.
Well, we don't want to,
Be careful.
yeah.
We're going to buy staff industrial strength deodorant.
Although maybe it didn't.
I'm going to say something.
One
Real-
second.
Go ahead.
Okay. On that process with OC Waste and Recycling, and I know we're okay for this year, but it's 26, 27 that we're looking at. I know you're, and we appreciate how involved you are with that study group or what we call it. Any sense of where that's going or what's going? Do you have any?
I haven't heard anything yet. I think we're planning to meet in a couple of weeks and hopefully we'll get more information. The goal is to wrap up the negotiations by October. That's the goal.
noble goal, but
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
not sure
see.
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we'll see, we'll see.
Does that final rate study have to be approved by the supervisors, Orange County supervisors?
Yes, yeah.
Our rate study does. right?
Well, I would,
No.
the gate fees of the county, yes, they have to be approved by the county, yes. What kind of words?
I just wanted to say one thing. I'm going to jump in here. And I really appreciate what the staff has done as far as the preliminary budget like this and for how long it is. And I think you did a great job, and thank you.
Our constituents hopefully think they better.
So, Mr. President, if there's no more comments, I do have one recommendation or request, and that is, in this budget, in the proposed budget, as you know, we have two new positions. It's in the budget, the administrative assistant position for the solid waste department, and then the electrical instrumentation technician for the wastewater side. If the board has no objections to those positions and ultimately you're going to approve those positions, would you mind if we start recruiting for those positions now? And then hopefully we can hire those positions in July when the new budget is adopted.
I would rather wait personally.
Thing I like about early recruitment is you'll get a broader.
But we can hire, if we wait, that means we probably won't hire someone probably till September, October, versus if we can do now, we start recruiting now, we can hire someone in July and August. And that's specifically in the solid waste side. I mean, it's desperately needed because, you know, we do have a temporary intern there. That position's gonna go away soon. So it wouldn't, all that work's gonna be falling on Marissa. So.
Discuss that at the board meeting. That same question.
Sure, do you want me to bring it back at the
Here's for the board meeting.
board meeting? Sure, bring it at the board meeting, sure.
Okay, that works. Oh, I was, as a side comment to the budget, I know SDRMA is stuck with that rate, and a couple of things. I think our workers' comp rate has gone down, so there's a little bit of offset. But more importantly, SDRMA pays for me to go to the annual CSDA conference. So that's saving the district thousands and thousands of dollars. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
And you don't think that's reflected in our costs?
I'm sure it doesn't.
Do we have to let them know that we're attending that?
If I had sent an email to the board, I think yesterday,
I didn't see
so
that.
just let me know if you plan on attending the conference and what dates. That way I can register you.
The one in Monterey?
Hotels book up very quickly.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I don't know if I saw that. Did you send it yesterday?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I will respond as I'm going. I would like to go.
Does that go to my A Perry account or the Gmail? Yeah, because I needed to go to the A Perry account. Mine.
All right, we're at closing items. I had a question for whoever wants to answer it. The California pump station last week, this big green dot was put right in the middle of the sidewalk.
City stuff.
It's like a reflector.
Yeah.
It's a rectangular green reflector.
It's like the markers they put in the street, tell you where a fire hydrant is.
Yeah, that is a smart cover that we installed recently as part of a way to ensure that if something happens to the pump station, we lose communications. We have a secondary method of determining the high water level in that system.
But that marker, is that part of the smart cover?
No, it's not. It just tells our staff where the smart cover is located.
I have a request.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is planted right in the middle of the sidewalk. And it's a very heavily traveled sidewalk, especially with folks who have dogs. It also happens to be a very active skateboard. That thing is to me, a huge liability risk.
Well, look at it. If we can move it off to the side, we will. Is there I'm assuming the hatch is in the sidewalk?
Middle of the hatch is in the sidewalk, but there's a little apron next to the wall, the residence wall, it's probably that wide. It's right up against the edge, so.
We'll take care of it. We appreciate the comment and we are installing, just as information, our wastewater managers procured 12 additional smart covers after we had that issue over at West Bluff Pump Station, and we're installing those at the remaining pump stations. So I'll confer with him and make sure that we didn't create the situation in any other pump stations.
One last question.
I hate for our liability insurance to go up.
All over Mesa Verde, they're doing street improvements. And in my area, I've noticed they've taken the manholes out and asphalted them in. Does that mean they're going to do the paving replacement?
There are improvements within this, I call them the state streets. I think there's also some improvements, street improvements being conducted in the Mesa Verde area. What the city does is they do one of two things. They grind and cap, which is they grind and remove 2 inches of existing asphalt, then they place 2 inches of new asphalt. Or the second item is they basically slurry seal the existing asphalt. They do one of those two things, and it's a mix and match kind of a process. So where they're planning to grind and cap, the contractor will lower our manhole frames and covers, or they remove our frames and cover, bury a steel plate over our manhole so that stuff doesn't get in there. They put temporary paving and then they do their grind and cap. That way the manhole frame and cover, or for other utilities, their iron or utility covers don't interfere with the grinding process. So they do that for all the utilities, not just our manholes.
When they slurry seal the street, they don't remove the manholes.
They just slurry around the manholes and the valve covers and
They're gonna put a
a
new.
cap. Yes,
Cap,
an
okay.
asphalt cap.
That's-
And we've coordinated that with the city, and we will reimburse them for lowering than raising our manhole
All
frames.
those new manholes be the lightweight things?
Yeah, that's likely what we're planning to do, yes.
Thank you.
Staff, anything else we missed? Thank you all for the work you do. With that, we are adjourned until this Monday evening. Just a reminder that the board meeting is this Monday evening instead of.
No, I thought it was the 28th. It's the 28th.
Oh,
Tuesday, the 28th.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
The day after.
Did I
It's
miss
the day
that?
after, yeah, Labor Day. Yeah, we approved it last meeting.
I wonder where I was.
The 27th,
That's
Yes.
Monday.
yes,
It's the 27th.
That's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's 27th, right.
So the fourth Tuesday and not the fourth Monday.
Yeah, it's after Labor Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're adjourned until May 27th.
Yes.
But yeah, it's got it.
Yeah.
Oh,